You're listening to
The Mariety Show.
The Mariety Show.
The Mariety Show.
Yo, turn down for what?
In the way,
Something's in my
cracks
ass.
me like no other love.
Burning.
Something in the way.
This is The Mariety Show. That's right, The Mariety Show starring Mariah. You may be wondering where she has been over this past year. Some say she trained under the Force Ghost of Casey Kasem to create the one podcast to rule them all. Other rumors have swirled about her pulling off the heist of the century by becoming a master hacker and stealing all the gold from Fort Knox. One thing is for certain. She's back. Last week, her and friend of the show, Kaya Orson, reminisced about fond times together and told some fun Brady stories. Brady the Boisterous made an appearance to defend himself, but left the audience with more questions than answers. That brings us to today's episode of The Mariety Show. What awaits us? Who is this week's guest? Why is Tom the Tree Man doing a recap for The Mariety Show? All the questions you never thought you had, and more, answered tonight on The Mariety Show.
We're back. This is The Mariety Show. It's Mariah, and what a great intro from Tom. Today we'll be diving into the Who's Right cinematic universe with Kevin, Evan, and Tom. How's it going, guys?
We're like the Three Musketeers of weird names.
I was about to say, that sounds like an old
Tom.
Cartoon Network show.
Kevin, Evan, and Tom. Yeah.
I'd be like
does.
the single Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Sounds like a band name or something.
I like the names, even though I'm gonna get Kevin and Evan confused, and then I'm gonna look over to reference who is who, and then I'm gonna be like, wait, is that Tom or Evan? Okay, we'll talk about all that in a second, but real quick, let me just say thanks, guys, for tuning in. Thanks,
You're welcome.
you guys, for being here also. And
course.
I've been busy doing a lot of life things, so thanks for listening if you're hearing this right now. I'll keep that short and simple, but let's introduce everyone round table AA style. So, who wants to go first? Any volunteers? Like AA?
Tom's going first.
Hey guys, I'm Tom. You hear me on
Hi,
Who's
Tom.
Right Tonight.
Oh, never mind. Okay, that's
hello.
not gonna work out.
No, it's cool. Let's
yeah.
try it again.
Yeah, let's start from the top.
Okay, 5, 6. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, but you hear me on Who's Right Tonight, and the Bible, Doug and Anthony do the Bible podcast, and I also do some advertisements for Doug and Anthony whenever they want to shill their candy, so big helper for the Who's Right podcast.
They tell you to do that? I thought you just put that in there to be nice.
No, sometimes they tell me to do things, and I'm like, I got time, I can do that.
Awesome. All right, who wants to go
Kevin.
next?
My name is Kevin.
Hi,
I
Kevin.
have-
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
I have a few YouTube channels. I have one where I do like video essay documentaries talking about either reading creepypastas or doing deep dives into weird websites and internet mysteries. And I have another YouTube channel where I post detailed solutions of physics and calculus and engineering problems. Both channels are doing pretty well right now, which I'm proud of. As far as the Who's Right podcast goes, a few years ago I was the narrator for the Hamilton and Piccolo scripts that Evan wrote. I bet he'll mention that in his introduction in a second. And more recently, I've been featuring as the Bible expert for Doug and Anthony Do the Bible.
That's the whipping boy, right?
As the whipping boy, exactly.
I must have not understood that. What is that supposed to mean, the whipping boy?
You've never heard of... That's like... I forget which country did it, but... See, I'm already flexing my history knowledge. But like a long, long time ago, there used to be a thing where, like, in some country, if the priest... Or if the prince, I think, misbehaved, they weren't allowed to hit the prince as punishment. So they'd have, like, the prince's friend.
Okay.
We're gonna whip you instead whenever the prince misbehaves.
I think
Doug and Anthony.
I think I get it.
Doug and Anthony just ruthlessly beat the shit out of Kevin on these episodes recently.
Shit. Damn. Oh fuck. I hope I'm not clipping too much. It's alright. It's alright. I think it's fine. Okay, sorry. And last but certainly not least, the most creative guy here, Evan. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. No, hi, Evan. No, that just gets skipped on me.
Hi,
No, you
Hi,
have to say your
Evan.
name, right? Okay.
Okay, hi,
Evan.
I'm Evan.
Hi, Evan.
Hi, Evan.
Hi, Evan.
All right, thanks, guys. That's all I came here for.
Nice.
But
Okay, bye.
yeah, I'm the writer of Hamilton and Piccolo. 3 seasons of that, which was lovely narrated by Kevin. I also have made a bunch of short films and a video game, The Dream Team, out now for free on Steam.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I didn't
That's
know about that.
awesome.
Dream Team.
This guy has a lot of good projects. He's very creative. He may not like me because I think my intro music is like AI. So sorry about that. But you just gotta do some things sometimes. But anyway, it's so weird because you can
Well, I
see
didn't
me,
hate
so
you
I
because
feel...
I didn't know about that.
Oh,
but now I do.
oh shit.
If you had just not said anything, then we could have been fine. But now,
All right, maybe I should save that for the end. We'll see. Everyone's
Well, it's
using
too late
AI
now.
That's all right. If I make a short story, I would never use AI. If that makes you feel better. If I was in school right now, I would never use AI. I think. Anyway, okay, I'm getting a little nervous. I'm Mariah, and I'm the host of the Mariety Show.
Hi, Mariah.
Thanks.
hi, Mariah.
Mariah.
I think everyone knows who I am at this point. Because if
Real.
you're tuning into the Variety Show, you obviously know who I am, right? Okay, awesome. So thanks for the introductions. I hate doing this on video right now. This is so weird. I keep mentioning that, but no, we're not gonna have the video posted on here. So it's okay. Says me, the owner of the podcast. So it's okay. You guys will love the audio only stuff. You're not missing out on anything except looking at some faces that, honestly, when you kind of glance real quick, everyone kind of looks the same. And
Yeah, we're 3 generic white boys.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you do the quick glance over, I kind of blend in too because I also look like a boy right now. So, but besides
4
that,
white boys hanging out.
yeah, four boys.
We have to be really far apart from each other in a hot tub to prove that we're not gay.
Oh yeah, I love that meme. Okay, I'm so stupid. I hate myself. Okay, let's start with the. Let's see some of Evan's creative genius, read by Kevin. Oh my god, I'm gonna get so confused saying y'all's names. Really, Jesus Christ. So we could just start that, I guess.
Yeah, so this is
Are we taking
prologue.
characters, or is he reading it all? Wait, no, that's not how this works. I forgot already. I'm terrible at this.
Nope, Kevin's just reading. So
Okay.
this is the prologue to the upcoming Hamilton and Piccolo book, which is season 1 of Hamilton and Piccolo. Reimagined with new scenes, new characters, just everything that was already there, expanded upon, just all new stuff in this investigation. This is the prologue, which is a new part exclusive to the book.
Hell yeah.
So why don't you take it away, Kevin?
So I might as well ask now because we had no discussion or planning for this ahead of time. But am I just straight through reading the whole thing, or should I pause every few sentences so we can discuss it?
I guess you can just read the whole thing and then we discuss after.
All right.
If I have
Time
a
to get the
question, I will
character.
pipe in.
Oh yeah, you feel free to interrupt me if you have a comment or a funny haha
well,
moment.
Even though you haven't started reading it,
All right.
Evan, is this the thing that you were asking for people to proofread? The same thing, or is this something else? Because I know there are various Hamilton and Piccolo type of deals going on. There's a book, there's the show that Doug and Anthony recorded. Is this, remember you were asking people to like proofread and give their opinion on stuff?
Yes, this is that I had Doug ask some people on the Patreon if they could
Okay.
proofread, and I sent them a couple chapters at a time, slice it up, and sent different chapters to different people for them to proofread.
Oh hell yeah. Okay, I'm excited. Alright, I'm ready whenever everyone else is.
Alright, I guess I'll take it away.
Let's go, Kevin.
Time to get into character. Doug and Anthony present Hamilton and Piccolo, The Case of the Genital Carnage, by Jean-Luc Rhodes. A Who's Right production. Prologue, November 31st, 20XX, 7:30 a.m. It was a crisp autumn morning. The sunlight was shining through the window onto the eyes of Delvin Cox. He rubbed his eyes as they remained shut, finding solace in the darkness that his hand created. But Delvin knew that as soon as his hand was moved, the light would be back to piercing through his eyelids. He opened them, surrendering to his morning routine. The blanket was tossed to the side of the bed for Delvin to get up. He opened the wooden drawers to pull out his clothes, squeaking as they opened. The sound that would normally bring annoyance and a can of grease instead brought Delvin reassurance that it was indeed his own dresser. Comfort flooded his feelings in the familiarity of his surroundings. Every bit of imperfection reminded him that he was home, safe and sound. At least he was, knowing that he'd soon have to head out the door and go to work. He had a busy job as a reporter and writer for the Kansanois Experience, interviewing locals, celebrities, and everyone in between. Then writing those interviews up into a column and getting it sent out around the town of Kansanois.
Kansanois. Combination of Kansas and Illinois.
I would have never thought. I would be so terrible reading this. You're doing really good.
That's just a glimpse into Evan's creative genius right there.
Kansanois. Evan's genius.
Absolute hell of the Midwest.
It was exhausting, but he persevered nonetheless. Leaving his room, he walked down the hall to get breakfast and basked in more familiarity and comfort. Pictures lined the hallway, leading down to the living room and kitchen area. Pictures of family, him with celebrities he's interviewed, awards, and pictures of farms that aren't actually from town, but he liked the look of anyway. The soft carpet was nostalgic beneath his feet, and the shadow on the carpet up ahead that wasn't there before. Delvin stopped in his tracks. He looked down at the shadow, a mere 3 feet in front of him, the source of which was just around the corner of the wall. He would have recognized it if it had been there before. Without moving his feet, he leaned his body into the bathroom and grabbed a clothing iron. It was the same one that he used last night to straighten out the clothes he was wearing. Now, he would use it to straighten out whoever or whatever was in his home. He resumed his walk down the hallway, trying to keep the same pace to not raise suspicion, bringing the iron up in a position to swing it towards his right as soon as he turned the corner. 2 feet away. Who would be inside his house this early in the morning? Surely not robbers. They would have struck in the middle of the night. So who was it? What did they want from him? 1 foot away. Delvin realized that some of his old acquaintances turned up dead over the past month. Could this be related? 0. Delvin swung the iron around the corner with a force that flung his entire body around with it. As Delvin threw himself around the corner, he saw a black figure standing slightly taller than him. It could have been wearing a black coat, but it was too hard to tell while being flung around. The iron crashed into the figure where the head should be, but there was surprisingly little impact. The iron didn't stop with the collision, and Delvin made the split-second decision to let go of the iron before he ended up face-planting on the ground with it. The iron went flying off into the kitchen, crashing into the floor, leaving a massive dent. Luckily, the damage wasn't as bad as Delvin had braced himself for. He looked back down at the figure beneath him, tapping it with his foot. "Hello?" he called out beneath him. There was no response. It was at this moment that he realized that his intruder was just his living room lamp, with a black jacket thrown over it. Delvin exhaled, but the relief he felt lasted only a moment before the questions trickled into his mind again. Why was his lamp over here? He didn't move it. He would have remembered. And whose jacket was this? He didn't recognize it. And he didn't have anyone over last night. The creak of a floorboard brought Delvin's train of thought to a screeching halt. Time itself seemed to slow to a crawl as he tightened his fist and turned to swing behind him, praying that he wasn't about to be in the market for 2 new lamps instead of 1. Okay.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Damn, I should have
As he
brought
twisted-
sound. I wish I would have known my audio was actually like fine, because I really could have had sound effects for this. Maybe I can add them in later.
Okay, do some Foley work.
Oh, I
Foley
can
work.
do that. I can do that.
Dude,
We can do that for the rest. I feel bad. I should have said that sooner. Yeah, just Oh fuck, where are we at? Wait, what page are we on, guys?
We're on page
about
4.
4, about halfway down.
Okay, I see it.
If the Foley work gets to be too much, I'll drop it.
Are you ready, Tom?
Ready as I'll ever be.
As he twisted his body around to face the source of the floorboard, he felt a shove against his chest, pushing him to the ground. Falling, could feel himself sinking into hell. The devil was looming above him, wearing a maroon coat with a matching fedora. He didn't appear to be wearing a black ski mask, but the shadows obscured his face all the same. He hit the ground with an impact that reverberated through his body.
Oof.
First his back, then
Ow,
his
my
head.
back! My head, too!
His skull hit the floor with an audible shattering sound.
Why do I hear ringing?
Delvin
That's not
opened his
shattering
eyes and saw that his glasses had cracked wildly. He looked up to see several clones of his assailant,
There's
one
so
in
many!
each pane created by the cracks. Then, several knives were drawn and were coming straight at him.
How did you get so
Oh,
many knives?
By the way, okay, I think this is one of the parts I read. I love this part a lot, because although Tom's making it funny, I mean the point of him this is written so well. I like this part because it's like
It really is.
like
But
it's
each
like I
pane
would have never
separated.
thought to like say it to the point of view from the glasses like that. Like it's like, you know, there aren't well, I don't think there are, but you know, there aren't really multiple of them. It's just his glasses are shattered, so he's gonna see multiple because of the little I don't know.
It's good attention to detail. I respect that.
Yeah,
I'll do
it's
sound
awesome.
I'll do sound effects for Foley work instead of adding commentary. But no, like even in the earlier paragraphs, Evan, it's like that's really clever. Again, with the 2 being in the market for 2 lamps, it just these little things kind of go a long way. It's really awesome.
Yeah, this is good. This is so
You
good.
love Evan.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Delvin reached up to grab his assailant's arm, unsure which one in his vision he should really be going for. Miraculously, he caught one of the arms. He watched the invaders completely cover each part of his shattered glasses as he felt their body weight press on top of him. As Delvin struggled to keep the knife at bay, he felt the tip press against his chest. This can't be it, he thought to himself. This can't be where I die. Not in the home I've grown to associate with comfort and safety. It should be outside on stage, as I dive in front of the president to save him from an assassin's bullet. Delvin dove into the depths of his own heart and pulled out every last bit of resolve he had left and pushed back against the arm, holding the knife. He screamed loudly with determination, certainly enough determination for his neighbors to hear. Delvin figured that this would create a pressing time limit for his attacker. Maybe even with the neighbors alerted, his attacker would be frightened and run away. No such luck, as the attacker was still on top of Delvin. But it didn't matter. He was overpowering the person on top of him, pushing the knife back. With a final shove, Delvin felt the knife being pushed away. The body weight on top of him felt lighter too, as he watched the several clones of the maroon assailant disappear from his splintered vision. He had not just pushed the knife away, but pushed the entire attacker off of him. That was what he was thinking to himself, mere seconds before he felt his pants sliding off. Yo, what the hell? Delvin yelled out. He felt his attacker around his legs, forcing his clothes off. Was this not a killing attempt, but something else? Delvin saw the attacker raise the knife above their head. Delvin once again tried to tell which copy of the attacker he had to aim at to strike the one behind the shattered glasses. He threw out his fist, which whiffed into the air as the attacker drove their knife down into Delvin's genitals.
Ouch.
One last yelp was all the neighbors reported, before only silence followed.
I believe the last line that the neighbors heard was, "Ow, my genitals!"
Delvin
No one
Proxima,
passed away.
November 31st, 20XX, 7:45 a.m.
What he actually said was, "Ow, my genital carnage."
Ow, my case of the genital carnage.
Where are Hamilton and Piccolo to help solve this case of the genital mutilation or genital carnage? I know the title.
That's so awesome, man. I love this. This is
Like,
good.
again, it's so crazy, Evan, to me, because again, like, yeah, you can tell it's even by the title, Hamilton and Piccolo, the case of the genital carnage. It's a comedy book, but like the writing in here is just like you can tell how much care that you have for this project. Because again, I feel like if somebody walks past in a bookstore and they sees that, it's like, oh, that's like a Chuck Tingle book. Like, you know, a velociraptor seduced me and made love to my wife while I watched. But this is like at next level writing. It's really awesome.
Chuck Tingle.
Thank you.
You're
know
not
who Chuck
familiar with
Tingle
Chuck
is.
Tingle?
Never heard of
You
that,
write
but not as
incredible
good as Evan, obviously.
No,
I don't know,
you
Chuck
write-
Tingle's pretty good.
I heard of Evan before I heard of Chuck Tingle, so what does that tell you?
It tells you he's a new up and comer. He's about to take the world by storm.
Yeah. Shout out to Jean-Luc Rhodes.
Jean-Luc. Love it. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I may have gotten quieter. I should have not adjusted that in the middle. I'm afraid my audio's gonna be so fucked because I think I'm clipping, but it's okay. It'll be fixed the rest of the episode. That was awesome. I love it so much. When do we expect the entire thing to come out, huh?
Likely soon. The last of the illustrations are being worked on because each chapter is going to have a unique illustration.
Oh, that's so
Yep.
cool. I
Those are
love it.
being finalized now. The entire book is complete and been approved. Then once we have everything, we just have to properly format it for publication. Then
Oh, it's gonna be like a
the-
paperback book. Like literally, it's not just like a Amazon ebook. I mean, I'm sure you can get it in that format or something, but
Like I can buy it on at Goodreads or
probably
Barnes and Noble.
probably.
probably
sure yet.
not Barnes and Noble. Probably just like online.
So
I don't know
are
how
you-
they're gonna do it. I don't even know if they know how they're gonna do it. But
So are you going through a publisher, or are you working with a group
No.
to kind of like self-publish?
it'll be self-published.
Right
Uh,
on, dude.
That's
As far as
awesome.
that part goes, that's Doug and Anthony's territory. So all I can say is maybe it'll get out soon. Maybe it'll get out 2 years from now. It all depends on how long they take.
Well, I'm gonna fucking.
It's out of my hands by that point.
Well, I'm gonna tell them they need to hurry it up because I need the rest of this. This is really awesome, and I need to probably get with you on similar things. My life, one project I want to do in my life. I guess it's like a bucket list thing. Is like I have this character I draw, so I want to make like a coloring book sort of thing. So I'm like, I don't want it to just be the pictures, but just have like little silly scenarios therein. So I'm like, maybe I could get some ideas from you and collab. Not AI, by the way. I'm drawing it myself.
Yeah, that should be another point of note. There's no AI involved in any step of this book. Not in the writing, not in the illustrations. No AI at all.
Not
I was
just
very
proofreading.
adamant about keeping it that way.
That's
Is that a
good.
shot at Doug and Anthony for doing their AI novel that I'm narrating?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Wait. AI novel? What the fuck? No, I don't know. AI just doesn't capture, like, I feel like it, it's helpful for some things, but just to do an entire creative project, like, I don't really like that idea too much. That's why I'm like, okay, I'm fine with my intro having the AI music, but everything else, I want to do it by hand. Even if there's something that could edit my podcast that was AI, I don't think I would want to do that because it's just not the same. But it's good for like generate like coming up with ideas and stuff and inspiring you. But yeah, you wouldn't get something this good out of AI at all, like what Evan just wrote here. So
Absolutely, I agree. You know, AI has its place. It still can't capture the human creative process, which I've been kind of exploring in my own personal life recently. It's like, as I read through Doug's AI novel, it's like you can tell AI wrote it, and it's not there's heart, but it's like a robot trying to mimic what love is. And you know, again, with an AI generated theme song, there are places for that. But as far as creativity goes, and I love it. I love where AI is potentially going as far in the realm of science goes, but it's just as far as creativity goes, I don't think it can ever. I'm gonna bite my words in like 2 months when it starts to overtake the works of Picasso or whatever, but I don't think it's gonna be anywhere. Kevin's piping up.
No, I'm just shifting in my seat awkwardly.
he's piping up.
I would like to see that though. There's a part of me that wants to say I don't think it'll ever get to that point, but there's a part of me that's like, I've been proven wrong about AI's progression before.
It has progressed a lot in the past year.
It's only going to get better, and even as much as I don't like AI, I can recognize that it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to get better and take more agency from the creativity side.
Ain't no passing craze.
I guess the issue I have, the thing I'm still hung up on, is that no matter how much better AI gets, like even if it gets to a point where it always makes hands look right and doesn't keep messing up hands or whatever, like no matter how much better the algorithm gets, or no matter how much more maybe realistic the artwork looks, the whole issue with AI on a technical level is that fundamentally it's based on analyzing other people's work. So that means that it can only be derivative. It cannot come up with new or original ideas. It can only make things that are similar to what's already been done.
I didn't think about it like that.
I feel like at some point it may be the opposite, but I don't know if you're going to need to have like quantum whatever in there. I don't know how that works. I barely know how I guess I really don't even know how AI works now, because it's not just like, is it just like a massive tree, like, and it's still just like going through like the branches? Like I don't even know that answer. You know what I mean?
I couldn't tell you how it's coded, but my understanding is that most of the AI systems are just connected to some massive database of other artwork or other writings that they're comparing things to.
Yeah.
And I think it's just comparing, okay, if someone types in moon, here's a bunch of images that are associated with the word moon, like that the program guesses, okay, this must be what a moon looks like, and then guesses, all right, and here's what the surrounding pixels or whatever must look like, because these are the colors and shapes that most commonly appear next to these shapes in other artwork that we have in my database. Like, I think it's kind of like that.
The thing that scares me the most... Go ahead, Evan.
Oh, thank you. So, not to, like, defend AI, because I still hate it, but the argument that, like, it can't be original, like, it's always driving off of other people's work. As someone heavily involved in multiple different types of creative projects, from books to video games to films, and a lot of art is other people like taking ideas from each other. And like, I think there's the one quote from some person, the secret to creativity is knowing how to hide your sources. And that's pretty true. Like, everyone's been ripping off of each other for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's just maybe humans are better at putting an original spin on it and like
Yeah.
making it their own, more so than robots.
It's like the old high school essay, like, how am I going to take this quote and make it my own, but still make it known that it's... My teacher knows I'm not as smart as Albert Einstein, so when I say E equals MC squared, here's what I mean, but I'm still getting it from another source. I don't know what I mean by that, but maybe
No,
you guys
I
can
think
pick up.
we get it. Yeah, like I want to draw. Someone teaches me how to draw a circle, but I want to draw a circle a little different way. But I still have seen that someone else has drawn the circle, so it's not my original idea. But I just want to do it a little differently. Yeah, but I don't think I still feel like at this point AI is not its own mind. I mean, I don't know enough about it, but I feel like, at this point, I feel like it is more copying because it is just taking, like, it's like input output. It's not really making a creative decision on its own and thinking for itself. I don't believe. I could be, like, way wrong. but I thought there was, like, there are terms for it, though. So the more advanced one. I don't know what it's called. I probably shouldn't be speaking on this subject. Anyway.
No, I don't think we have the combined brain power to speak on this, but what scares me the most about AI is
Four
it's
brain
just
cells.
like, 4 brain cells between the 4 of us, but
Tom's using 3 right now. Someone else is using the other.
that's
Okay.
a stretch.
The rest of us each have a third of a brain cell.
But what scares me the most about AI is it's like, that's the culmination of all of human intelligence that has gotten to this point, and it's only going to get smarter. And it's like that's what frightens me. But that's a whole different can of worms.
But it can't be creative. Like it can say these are shapes that most commonly are next to each other, but it doesn't have the like it can't put any heart, soul, or energy. I'm sounding like a corny person right now, but it can't it can't like make something. Everything it makes, it's using statistics and math and nerdy garbage to figure out how it all should go together.
I know we can't. I know the audience can't see the video, but Kevin all of a sudden transformed into a man wearing a mad scientist coat. His hair is all frayed. He's holding beakers, and he's got a calculator in his hand. He's a true mad scientist right now.
Yeah, when did
AI
Dr. Dukin shorts get here?
Don't compare me to him.
Oh no. People get passionate about AI even when there's someone like me who doesn't really have, which is funny since I do IT stuff and I really don't know much about it. But people really start getting passionate when AI is brought up, and this could go on for forever, but I do want to thank Evan for sharing his story with us and Kevin for narrating. As for how we all got here in the first place, do you want to go ahead, Kevin? And I don't know if I should explain.
So I was actually thinking about this earlier because what I should have done if I was a good podcaster, a good broadcaster, what I would have done was before we even did this, I would have listened to a few episodes of your show so that I could get an idea of kind of the flow, so I know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. I have no idea. I mean,
Only admitting to the host of the show that you didn't listen to any of the back catalog is a bold move.
I haven't. I've been on Bert and Burger's podcast, and I never listened to like any of their fucking episodes before, so it's all right.
I've listened to a few of your of Mariah's episodes months ago, but in all honesty, the majority of the interaction I've had with Mariah comes from me sending her $20 because she correctly guessed the combination of a lock I was trying to break into.
Hell yeah.
For a stupid project for my YouTube channel.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that was my first. I think that was my first interaction ever with Mariah. Like that, I posted a tweet saying, "Hey, trying to break into a lock. Whoever gets the closest number wins cash." And she got it right. I sent her the money for Christmas.
Did she get it right on the dot?
Not on the dot, but she had the closest number out of anyone. Which is funny, because I think the number she gave was...
69, right?
Yeah. That was your guess, and it was...
I was like, it can't be it. I'll never win $20.
But it was
Little
so.
did I
The answer
know.
was in front of us the whole time.
Yeah,
But-
so after that, I guess one day, I don't even know the tweet. He said there was something about him saying Tom and Kevin and something about doing a podcast with Tom and Kevin. And then so I made a group chat with Evan and Tom and me, and I said something like, "Hey, about that tweet," and Evan had no idea what I was talking about. So I was like, "Oh fuck, is this the wrong guy?" So I eventually added Kevin in here, and I was like, "Yeah, well, they're all the same." I was like so glad that first of all, you guys are all cool, and I didn't get any like weirdos on accident, because I'm like, "Oh fuck," and second of all, you guys are all in the Who's Right thing, because I'm in the middle of like the like official podcast and the Who's Right fans, and I'm like, even though they have like the common factors at some point, it's sometimes they don't know how to speak to each other, those different fans. So I'm like, okay, this all like aligned perfectly. They're all like the Who's Right people, they're all cool, and they all have like
Aw.
associations with Who's Right in some way. So I think this is just a good group of people to have the podcast with. Talk about the Who's Right extended universe today. But yeah, so it was a mistake on my part. But if I didn't make that mistake, then Evan probably wouldn't have been here today. But I think at some point I did ask Evan previously, or I was like, "Hey, how did you feel about being on my podcast at some point?" And I could be wrong, but it was like a long time ago when I was trying to get back into the Mariety show. And I started studying.
We did plan on having me on for an episode,
Yeah, and then I
so
mean,
here we are.
you could always come back and we could do more readings and stuff. And sorry I didn't make this one solely about you. I try to make it more about the guest.
I want it to be all about me.
Fuck. Duh, this is my show. But yeah, I'm so glad I have everyone here though, and it'll prep for next time. I know if we're gonna work together well or not, but you guys all seem to have you guys all spoken to each other like in a voice chat before today?
This is
Yeah,
my
voice
first time
chat, no.
talking to any of you guys in with our voices.
Wow, we're doing pretty good. We're doing
Yeah, it's not
good.
bad, right?
Holy
Like,
shit!
I've sent. Tom and I have had text back and forths in the past, but I've never a real time chat before today.
No, this is all new to me. I'm meeting you guys. I'm seeing you face to face. The audience doesn't know that, but we do. And actually, we're forming a real conversation using words that come up through my vocal cords to talk to you three beautiful people.
That's
You
awesome.
think I'm beautiful?
Kevin's been narrating my series for 3 years. I've never talked to him before.
Oh my gosh! That's awesome. Oh, it's like a family reunion, but not at all. So,
It's a family union.
It's
yeah.
the family finally meeting each other.
In all honesty,
Long-lost
Mariah,
siblings.
in all honesty, of the three of you, like Mariah, you really are the person I know kind of the least about. Because I remember when I first,
Yeah.
because I remember I first heard of you, like not even a year ago when, like I think Doug or someone guested on your show, and I looked at your channel, and I was like, who is this person? And you had like other episodes where you had other members of the official podcast guesting on, and I remember thinking like, who is this person? Where did they come from? I don't know how you got. I still don't know how you got started. I guess in the Who's Right universe.
Yeah, I guess to make a long story short, I was an official podcast fan. I became friends with Kaya and Jackson, and then Kaya and Doug met, however they met. And then I became friends with Doug because Kaya's friends with Doug. And then that's how I got involved. I think around 2019 is when I started being active. And I called in to the podcast because Brady was on there a lot. and I called in as Brady's ex-wife. So that's the
Oh,
ongoing.
no way.
Yeah, so that's the ongoing thing. So if you guys know about Hardin, he's the crazy vegan guy that Kaya speaks to all the time. I told him also just to keep the lore going that Brady's my ex-husband. But yeah. So that's what so if he ever says that, that's ongoing. I originally called in and I'm like, Brady, you need to take the kids to band practice. I'm sick and fucking tired of doing all this shit myself, and I need my child support and all this stuff. And then I was kind of not active for a few years, and then I've come back and have been more active, and then I just, that's when I gave Doug the idea for the Bible podcast, and now Kevin is involved in the Bible podcast, being in there, I guess, being their, what'd you guys call it? Their slap boy? Their beat boy? What did you call
whipping
it?
boy.
Oh, something.
The whippet boy. He does a lot of whippets and then he reads the Bible.
Yeah. So,
Super high.
oh my god, it's just so much, but this is what the episode's all about, trying to understand this all. So this episode's perfect for anyone who's trying to get into the Who's Right universe and understand everything that's going on. These are great people to have on for this. Unfortunately, Nugget couldn't be here. I didn't invite her, but it's okay because she would talk a lot. So
Unfortunately, Nugget couldn't be here because I didn't want her on it. I'm so sorry, Nugget. I did not mean that.
I love Nugget, but
You should have invited Nugget.
that would.
No,
I think this could be like a cool segment where we all go around and like explain how we got involved in the Who's Right.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
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 We
I
kind of
think-
already transitioned towards Kevin.
Yeah, and I think that's it for me. So, Kevin, how did you get involved?
So this story is makes me sigh because for as long as I can remember, well, that's not true. As long as middle school, about 7th grade, every time I meet someone new, it's always been the first thing they say, the first gosh darn thing they say to me is always, "You have a really deep voice.
Bro,
you should be on the
same.
radio. You should be a podcast. You should record audiobooks." And I still remember it was sometime mid to late 2020, I think. I decided I wanted to hang out in the after show chat, so I signed up for Patreon, hopped into the after show chat, voice chat. Within 5 minutes of me being in the call and saying maybe one thing, I had 7 different people making that comment. "You have a really deep voice. Whose grandpa is in this chat?" and Doug immediately mentioned offhandedly, "Hey, some guy has been reaching out to me with like a script for something. Hey Kevin, do you want to be the narrator for that?"
Oh no, just kidding.
And Doug, so day one of me being a patron, and Doug immediately is like in my DMs, sending me PDFs of the script, asking like, I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it." And that was how it kind of got started. And eventually, after only a couple months, I ended up dropping my patronage because, broke college student. But
Yeah, Doug
Doug,
charges like an arm and a leg. That fucking bastard.
for the next year or so, I continued to get scripts from Doug. Like, here's the next episode from Evan. Here's the next script, and I would just record my part. And I kept doing that until.
Awesome.
So that's kind of how I got started, and then I eventually kind of started moving on a little bit because of school issues and whatnot. And then
That's funny because you and Tom, like I said, I'll have a hard time differentiating between you guys. It's good that you guys are on the camera so I can see who's talking. But for those listeners out there, it seems like Tom and Kevin both have either people have told them or they do have the broadcasting experience, so that's funny that both of their voices are similar, and oh look, they're doing all this voiceover broadcasting thing. I don't know the right words.
Their
either.
voices
I didn't
are
come
like,
I didn't come into this voice. This voice came into me.
Ew,
I
it
don't like
came
the way you
into-
phrased that.
whoa.
I don't like the way you phrased that.
Hey now, no, I'm gonna die on that hill. That sounded better in my head, but that's a that's a funny way of saying that.
So.
I-
Oh yeah.
So, like, as for how the Bible thing got started, I mean, I first read through the entire Bible when I was about 12 years old, and
I went to
Sorry,
Catholic
what?
school, and I never
Damn.
once did that, dude.
Did you
It
just
wasn't-
like sit down and read it? Was
I-
this
I
also
read-
in an episode? So my bad if you've explained this before. I've missed
I
a couple of the
never-
Bible episodes, but you
I've
just read the entire Bible.
I've never told this story on Doug and Anthony's show. They never, they haven't asked me to go into my own background.
The Mariety exclusive right here. All right, let's see.
I mean, all right. So you get the exclusive Kevin lore. No, when I was about 11 years old, I had
Yeah,
kind of a
write this
phase.
down.
When I was about 11 years old, I was in kind of the dumb adolescent, preteen fedora wearing phase
Oh.
where I was really into like The Amazing Atheist. And eventually, eventually, 11-year-old me came up with the idea to read the Bible to kind of laugh at it and make fun of it. So I ended up reading the entire Bible, and I did it using like specifically using an annotated version online that kind of pointed out like notes and things and explained things that were like controversial. But the further I read, I ended up not so much making fun of it and laughing at it, as much as I found myself actually really kind of fascinated with it from like kind of a story perspective, because I wasn't treating it like this is the word of God, this is something I need to take seriously and how to live my life. I
Kevin,
just kind of
can I-
treated it like a story.
Can I just jump in here real quick, Kevin?
Yeah.
When I was 11, I was busy trying to get my first nuke in Modern Warfare 2. So, I mean, what the heck
Yeah.
what was going on in your childhood, dude? I know you said you're into The Amazing Atheist, but oh my god.
Yeah, I
Well,
was like
yeah,
just in like playing Club Penguin still. So
That's a long way to go out of spite.
Spite is a great fuel factor, man, but like
It's-
that's intense.
But it stopped being spite after only a few chapters, because then I started getting into the stories about like Noah's children seeing him naked and the the chapter where they tricked an entire city of people into circumcising themselves so that they could kill everyone while
Okay,
they
but
were
that's-
healing from their wounds. Like,
As
it was
we know-
just the further I got into the Bible, the more I was like, wow, these are actually really insane stories, and I ended up having a lot of fun learning about it and researching what historians think the actual history of the story is, and it ended up becoming like a bit of something I was really fascinated with for a while when I was 11.
Fucking
And-
nerd.
awesome.
It was a story, nerd.
I'm not a fucking nerd.
I felt like I was just reading a novel, okay? That's how I treated it. And when I heard that, and it's actually a really kind of funny coincidence, because even before, because ever since I finished reading the Bible when I was a kid, and kind of like, which was more than 10 years ago now, damn, I still always wanted to kind of do something with the Bible, because I found it really, I found it and do find it really fascinating from like a historical perspective, and just kind of because even if you don't believe any of it happened, then it still obviously influenced a lot in modern culture and a lot and in modern politics even.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's something that's kind of intriguing to learn about. But what always kind of but even back then when I was just reading it for the first time, what always kind of disappointed me about the Bible is that so many websites and YouTube series out there that try to explain it, they usually fall into one of two categories. They either A, are from a very religious perspective, where they're like cherry picking the good parts from the bad, ignoring the parts that are problematic, and trying to hold it on a pedestal, like in high regard. Or B, they're from like a more atheist perspective, but they go too far with it, where they're just crapping all over every word to the point where they're just missing the point,
It's
or
not
criticizing things
scientifically
that don't even.
possible to actually make water or wine.
You know what
Yeah.
disappointed me? You know what disappointed
I've
me
al-
the most about the Bible?
What?
You know what
Say that again?
disappointed me the most about the Bible?
What?
If it's so good, if it has such a cultural impact, why is there no Bible 2?
Bible 2. I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah, dude, there's no. Come on, low hanging fruit. I gotta pick that.
But a few months coincidentally, a few months before Doug and Anthony started their Bible show, it was around the time I was really starting to put the pedal to the floor with my own YouTube project. And one of the projects that I came up with was the idea to do my own Bible series, actually, that would kind of take a more nuanced approach, where I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it now, actually, where I want to, like, do my own series where I kind of go through each chapter and summarize it and kind of talk about, okay, here are some cool things about this chapter, like some interesting or fun things about this chapter. Here are some ways in which this chapter has influenced modern culture. And also, here are some contradictions. Here's some things that haven't aged very well. Here's some issues with it. Like, I've been working on this series where I want to take a more nuanced, more kind of honest, both sides approach to it.
I like that. That was my when I came up with the idea for Doug. Well, I didn't come up with it for Doug. I was telling him I wanted to do something like that as like a Mariety sideshow, and I was thinking if I did it, I wanted to do it kind of more the way you were doing, to like understand, okay, why is this happening? Why do people think this about it on both sides? And I thought that'd be a good idea, but I'm like, really, I don't know how interesting I would be, so I'm like, here, you could, like, we were talking about it, I'm like, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to execute this well, so that's when I just gave him the idea to, basically the main idea to read the whole Bible, and they have their who's right spin on it, obviously. That is not the same at all, but it is very interesting, it's very awesome, so I'm glad they took that idea, and I feel like someone like you would also be better for that similar idea because you read the whole Bible before and have more insight, and I'm also bad at history anyway, so I'd be researching for so long I wouldn't have time to do any of that stuff at this point. So if you ever, you're gonna continue about it, I assume, but if you ever want to commit to that idea, I'll be on board. Tell me if I need to help with anything, because I love that. I love it.
I see. I'm still for my own personal project, for my own personal take on the Bible, for my own Bible series I'm trying to do, I'm still going through my first pass of like adding annotations and notes on each chapter, and that's probably going to keep me busy for quite a while. But when it finally comes time to be ready to do the scripting and actual recording and such phase, and like actually planning out the actual way it's going to go on a video by video basis, I totally would not mind having guest readers or guest commentators come in and talk about their own thing. So that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be really exciting. But yeah, when I found out that Doug and Anthony had started their own series, I remember thinking to myself, there's no way they're getting past Genesis. But they ended up getting pretty far with it. And I kept sending them my own comments because I was already past where they were as far as my own annotations were. So whenever they would like miss something that's funny because of the way they were doing it at first, or whenever they would not understand something that was like maybe explained, I would send them a message and kind of go into more detail. And eventually, what finally got me on the show was, I think it was Exodus 17. That video had like a whole segment where they were talking about
that sounds around the time we did the intro.
Beating up on Tom.
And was that around the time we did the April Fool's prank or something?
Yeah, that was
because
the exact time that we did the April Fool's joke, and then the files got fucked up.
Yeah.
And then Doug publicly flogged me for all to see.
So what happened was Tom. So what happened was in that episode.
Oh, I can't wait to get your side of the story, Kevin.
They spent that whole episode like giving Tom, like beating Tom, like Tom was the whipping boy that episode. And then at the end of the episode, there was a comment that I assumed Doug said as a joke, but just in case, I wasn't sure if they were trying to imply that Tom was getting fired. So I figured, just in case, maybe I can swoop in and steal Tom's job.
You slid into my DMs asking if I was done.
Yeah, I sent Tom immediately as soon as I heard that episode. I sent Tom a DM like, "Hey Tom, you still doing the Bible?" and for about a week, Tom didn't respond. So after Tom didn't respond at first, I then sent Doug a message saying, hey, I don't know what's going on with your narrator, but in case you need help with understanding what's happening in case you need help. So in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, so I already have a massive Google Doc. I already have a bunch of Google Docs filled with my own comments and my own annotations for the project I've been working on already for almost a year. So I figured, okay, if Doug and Anthony are struggling this much, and there's a chance that they're about to lose Tom, maybe I'll send Doug my own notes, my own docs, with my own layman's terms summaries of what's happening,
They will never
and see
do
if
that.
maybe that'll help them out. And I sent Doug one of my Google Docs, and he responded with like, he said he thought some of my comments were funny, and he said, you know what? Why don't you come on?
Of course, they don't even.
And
They're just like, we're not gonna read this. We're just gonna have you
Yeah,
do
this
it
is-
for us.
And I was like, hell yeah!
That's awesome, though.
And-
Kevin, I gotta say too, when you reached out to me, I didn't know who KTB was. I didn't recognize your profile picture.
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
didn't,
I'm not-
you didn't think it was Evan like me?
I didn't know who it could be, so I'm like, why accept that friend request? I didn't even see that he sent me a message. But at that point too, I had like 13 or 14 extra. Like I do my recaps in bulk until Doug wants to change it up again. So now there's that whole thing. But I was just like, I felt so bad because I always feel bad if somebody reaches out, leaving them hanging. So I was just like, if I had seen a message, I would have replied immediately. But it was just like, who's KTB? Why is he sending me a friend request? Fuck this guy. He's not letting me know anything. But yeah, that was not me trying to big time you. I just didn't know who you were, and I'm scared of internet people.
I don't understand. So that makes sense. That makes sense. But what I don't
I'm scared of
understand
internet
then.
people.
That makes sense, but what I don't understand then is what made you then respond a week later. What made you think to go back and say, "Oh, I know who KTB is now."
Guilt.
Oh,
Guilt made me go back, and then, well, I think a week later, as soon as they released the episode, I'm like, KTB. And they're like, so here's Kevin with the Bible. I'm like, oh, two and two together. And then I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my God, this is Kevin. I've appreciated your work on Hamilton and Piccolo. I gotta respond to this guy.
my work.
Man,
So-
he's just always like getting his like identity mistaken or something. What is going on with you over there? You're
My-
Walt Jr., you're Evan, you're some random guy on the internet. Sorry.
So you don't recognize KTB from the famous YouTube channel with 6,000 subscribers?
No, sorry.
Take it easy,
I thought you
Seamus.
said 10,000 earlier. What's the
No,
real
10,000 in total, because
Oh.
my creepy channel has about 6.6 thousand, and my physics
Okay.
channel has like 3.4 thousand, so 10,000 across both channels.
number? Nice. That's all.
But no, so I've been on every I've been on every Bible show since then. I'm assuming they're gonna fire me any episode, because every episode they get pissed at me. So here's the way the Bible show goes. Doug will occasionally ask me a question about what's happening. I will give them the answer, whether it's here's the answer or there are a lot of different ideas on the answer to this question, but no one really knows. And then Doug will say, I don't believe you. He'll look up the question. He'll find the first interpretation that comes up on Google and say, so they do know. You lied to
This
me.
is like a therapy session, more like, but you can continue. I'm fine with this information.
Kevin, you and I live under constant threat of being fired by Doug and Anthony, but for completely different reasons.
Where's Doug touched you? Where's Anthony touched you?
Right
Show me on
here,
the chart.
in the heart. And a little bit in the old brain.
This is so
Yeah, but-
fucking funny.
Mental fucking warfare out there in the Who is Right fields.
Yeah, they
I'm
are
just going to spend the...
they are the most difficult people to work with. They produce some of the funniest shit ever, but man, I invited Anthony and Doug on my show, or I invited Doug, but then Anthony came along. I don't know how it was, but he's like I was recording the show, and Anthony's like, I'm just tired. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know you were gonna come on my show and you're not talking a lot because you're tired? Like, fucking drink an energy drink or something. And then, when you're on Doug's and Anthony's show, vice versa, they're just tough people to work with. I mean, I don't know. You say something, but it's always gonna be wrong. And
Well, you said it earlier, Mariah. It's like you think you have a handle on the beast until you're in the Thunderdome, and
Yeah,
it's just like
basically.
you think you're telling them the truth, and then they'll ask you one question that you weren't prepared for, and you're like, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, then you're fucking stupid, aren't you, Tom? It's like what
Am I
Yeah.
the
Take
only one
it
who's had
easy.
like pretty positive experience working with them?
I was gonna say, let's all just spend the rest of this episode talking about all the ways Doug and Anthony have hurt us.
They produced
I know I
the
made
best
Doug
stuff,
pissed.
Well,
but-
you know,
though.
I mean,
How? Wait, well, I wanted to hear this. How'd you make Doug pissed?
Oh, well, working on the book, I kind of took over a lot more creative control. Like, Doug wanted a good amount of
More
creative control.
AI, less Evan.
I'm like, I consider myself to be an auteur, which is the cooler way of saying I'm a control freak who wants my projects to be as close to perfect as they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Doug wants to make some changes. I'm like, no. And that
Uh-oh.
pisses Doug off because
Uh-oh.
Doug doesn't like being told
and
no.
just not like being.
He never like yelled at me, but
Doug
when
does not like this.
I went on to who's right. Doug vented about it, and he wanted to do some illustrations. I was like, no, let's have patrons do the illustrations instead. Like have every
Yeah.
patron do
Oh,
different
that's
thing.
awesome.
Immediately after saying that, I realized exactly how it's gonna go, which is we'll say, hey patrons, who wants to do a chapter? Everyone will be raising their hands like, oh, let me draw one. Like, okay, here's all your things. Nobody's gonna fucking do it. Nobody's going to do it. We're gonna
Oh,
get
yeah.
nothing back.
Not a
I knew
shot in
exactly
hell.
that's how it's gonna go.
Yep.
So then Doug's starting to get that set up, and I'm like, actually, I found a person to do the illustrations. It's like, okay, they can do one or two. Like, no, they're gonna do everything. So like, I know that I can be tough to work with when it's a project that I'm really like passionate about and want to see through.
I
I
feel
know
like
that
maybe you're the Doug Wrangler. Maybe you know how to handle him the most. But have you ever been like on a full episode or entire episode with him, or has it just been working like messaging back and forth for the most part?
I've made a couple brief appearances on their main show. I was on a bonus episode, which not a lot of people liked. It was the Who's Rigged bonus episode from my own game show that I created on my YouTube channel, Metaverses. That's meta.verses. I came up with the name before Facebook. So that's my game show. It's Jeopardy, but if both teams get it wrong, then they play the question again, but try to give the funnier answer, and whoever the host, which is me, thinks is funnier, gets the point.
I messaged you in private and I told you I liked the episode because a lot of people weren't liking it in the comments.
I must have not listened to that
Yeah.
one. I'm so behind. They have so many different things going on. I just listen to whatever's on Spotify because it's the easiest. But I need to go back and listen to that. I bet I'd
That's
like
the
that.
only like full episode that I've been on, which not a lot of people liked. I didn't intend on it being an episode. I was trying to get it set up with Doug to record it separately from Who's Right, just have me record it, and then they were like, okay, we can do it tonight. I was like, oh, okay, that works. And I was like, what time do they do the bonus episode? And they're like, oh yeah, this will be our bonus. I was like, oh. And
Oh.
so it
Aw.
went actually better than I anticipated, which I don't know what that says about it, because a lot of people didn't like it. It made it way easier for me, because I purposefully, when recording those episodes on my own time, I try to leave in silence so I know where to cut just by looking at the audio. I know where to cut, make everything flow nicely. Doesn't exactly make for the best live show.
Oh, yeah.
And then
yeah, I
after that, the game show finished. It wrapped up, and they didn't have anything else prepared. I assume because they were like, "Well, Evan put out a short film the other week. Why don't we watch that?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like I didn't know that was gonna happen. That was sprung on me, and I didn't have anything prepared to talk about
They
it."
didn't try to fight you or anything while you guys were like recording live. They didn't test you to your
Oh, they-
limits.
No, they I believe they tried.
Maybe
to, like,
you're just
they were making jokes. They weren't like trying to push me. But
I don't know. Maybe
know.
the other three of us just have personalities that are easy to push around or something.
I know I do for a fact.
I kind of do.
I
Yeah.
think
I just assume
has
that when the
been
mics
true
are on,
about me.
when the mics are hot, they're doing what they think is funniest and listening to other people get blasted by them. I think that's funny. So when they're doing it to me, I think it's funny.
I think Evan just has a good personality to take charge though, because he even because this morning when I was like, yeah, I don't know the format, like I'm still working with it. I've been thinking about it. I couldn't figure it out. He just sent like the 2 paragraphs of how about we do this, this, and this. I was just like, okay, fine. Okay, I'll do it.
If you're doing the work, yeah.
I'm trying to become more assertive. I feel like with each new Bible episode, I become braver and braver with like pushing back against the baseless insults and accusations that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Once you figure out the key, like please pass it along, because again, Evan does it. I don't think he understands. Like he's just acting like himself, but like I'll ask to be on whatever and just see if I can try my hand at it again. But even when the Burton Burger podcast wanted to get on their show, and they were talking shit like, yeah, I'll be on the show. I'm gonna tell Doug how fat and stupid he is. I'm gonna tell him how it is. And they just like got on and they got destroyed by Doug and Anthony. And I'm like, see, no one can do it except Evan. I don't know what the key is.
It's like riding a bull. You gotta try to have that 8 seconds, or else you get bucked off.
That also reminds me about one more anecdote about Who's Rigged.
Yeah.
Which is that I polled. They had like other people who would have been interested in being on, like listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I only pulled like 2 of my friends that I know I already have good chemistry with, and I know Doug and Anthony have chemistry with each other. I wanted people to have like some sort of chemistry, so I pulled 2 of my personal friends who were aware of the show but weren't full listeners.
Oh no!
Because I
Uh-oh.
Well, I think that ended up working out for the best, because I didn't want every funny round answer to be like, oh, Doug Fat Anthony retorted.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Every joke would have been that, and that would have been. If you think how Who's Rigged came out on the bonus episode was miserable, just imagine it with full-time listeners. That would have been awful. But speaking of which, it's on the edited version that I think came out really, really great. Not to toot my own horn. Is out on YouTube, meta.versus.
Nice. Maybe I'll check that one out, and I'll tell everyone how stupid they are for thinking the live one is so bad, but I'll only watch the edited one.
I'll do you one better, Mariah.
Yeah.
It's in the description of this podcast episode.
Oh yeah.
So now you have to link it down there.
Oh, I do listen to this again. Let me write that down so I don't forget though. Description Evan's episode. Yeah, I'll remember that later. But yeah, no, I'm gonna put all y'all's stuff down there, by the way. The description, everyone's stuff, anything else you guys want to shout out. It's probably gonna be a long description of a bunch of things. For
sure.
But what all the key things we're talking about in this episode, we'll link them. We'll link them down. So if you're like, oh, what's that episode? Well, maybe not every single episode. Maybe it's just not like, oh, I appeared on this. Yeah, I appeared on this episode of Who's Right, and you just link every single thing. We'll post the key ones like that, because we have
to link every episode of Who's Right that has a Who's Right Tonight.
Wait a minute, isn't that a lot?
That's like a year of Who's Right Tonight's.
I'll need to outsource the work for that one. Listen through all of these and see if you hear this guy's voice, and if you do, just put it in the list.
Yeah, your guys is
Who's Right Tonight.
Yeah, I was about to hop in.
Should we do like a deep dive for Tom? Like we had Kevin's deep dive, Mariah's deep dive. Let's do a deep dive into Tom.
Yeah, Tom. So how did you get your start on Who's Right? How did they find you? How did you find them, or whatever else?
it's the typical boy finds podcast, boy listens to podcast, podcast makes fun of Doug for being fat. And then I transfer over to the Who Was Right podcast.
Nice. Then and then what?
So I started listening to the official podcast because I was a fan of Charlie's for Jesus.
You took the Mariah route. Official podcast to Who's Right podcast.
The official podcast to Who's Right pipeline is a violent one. But I took it. So I was watching Charlie way back in like 2011 when his channel blew up on Ray William Johnson.
Oh my
And I saw
god.
he started. I
2011
know, right?
Ray William Johnson. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, 26 and
God, you're old.
Shut the
I'm
fuck
3
up.
years older than you, dude. Come on now. So yeah,
That's old.
We're not that old.
All right, let the fossil talk.
Oh. All right.
just saying
You can find me in the museum later on for this episode, and I will be giving internet history stories. So I found Charlie on Ray William Johnson, and that it's been history since then. Just watching his videos. Found out that he started a podcast. So I think I got in about a year and a half after they started it, and then eventually Kaya found Who's Right. And I started listening to Who's Right around the voicemail special. And I feel like my upcoming through the Who's Right universe is a lot less organic than you guys's. Because, again, I'm just a listener who submitted something silly, and now Doug and Anthony like that I do it. But long story short, it's the same thing with Kevin is... a lot of people have told me throughout my childhood that, hey, you got a great voice, you might as well go do this. So I worked in broadcasting for a bit. I worked in radio and television. Because I was born and raised on, I was born and raised on AM radio. I remember listening to, I live in the Chicago area. So I listened to the Cubs on 720, and that channel would stay on, and my radio, I would wake up
AM
to
is
early
just
morning
talking.
AM is talk shows,
I've
baby.
never listened to AM.
Yeah,
All I see is
so-
the thing where it's if there's severe weather, turn to AM. I'm like, no.
No,
Always
I was
on
born
FM.
and raised on.
You
I
kids
remember
wouldn't know
waking
about that.
up. No, you wouldn't. It's terrestrial radio is dying, and it makes me so sick. I go off on tangents
Aw.
about how bad some Chicago radio stations are for being a major market.
though. Aw.
Yeah, I know. But I remember waking up in 4th grade listening to AM radio as my alarm clock. So I would listen to two gems, as I would call them, radio legends on WGN, like Johnny Brandmeier and Spike Odell. Those are names you guys will not know.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm just
Um,
shaking my head though.
Yeah, so those were my inspirations in from 2006 onward. So 6-year-old Tom listening to AM radio, going to 4th grade. So I knew I wanted to do something with broadcasting when I worked at a radio station, when I worked at a TV station. It wasn't really what I wanted. I was also not doing the jobs I wanted to do, because who would let an 18-year-old, a 16 or 18-year-old, actually on a live mic? So
Oh
I get
yeah.
it.
I guess
Um,
they all those kids are doing their own podcasts these days anyway. Though they should have predicted the future.
Honestly, for how big the media market is, it astonishes me how they have to be in the mainstream every day, but they're still so far behind on technology. The radio station I
Yeah.
worked at wasn't even running Windows XP. It was
Oh wow.
you thought I was a dinosaur, Evan. This stuff was I'm looking. It looks like a Fallout terminal when you're trying to hack into something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because even a local radio station here, it's very prevalent, and it's just kind of what I have on when my Bluetooth's not connected. I'm I don't even want to know how they're doing all theirs. I mean, I want to know, but I don't want to know, because it's yeah, they put in a lot of stuff, and I even hear the mistakes and stuff because they have to do it live, but I'm maybe they stick with the old stuff because they're all familiar with it or something. I don't know, but it's theirs seem to be fairly high quality for it being not a huge station, but a good regional kind of thing.
For sure.
But yeah, it's even another one I heard that was smaller than that. It sounded just sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, go off.
But there's another one I heard that was also local, but it was a bit smaller, and it's just they don't have as many live sound effects or as many segments. It's just them talking, and their mics suck. And I'm oh fuck. There's such a dramatic it's just one guy to rule them all, I guess.
It's crazy to me. I understand why a lot of actual radio stations don't want to update, because, like you said, everybody's used to the same thing. It's why hospitals still run the same program. I have no idea what I mean by that.
Well, I
am not
think
a-
they have to in hospitals because they can't just. A lot of the old machines are reliant on
Right.
the old
Maybe a
programs and
bad
stuff.
comparison.
But I think it may kind of be the same. I mean, they may have the equipment and it may only run on certain things that are older, or they don't really have the time or money to figure out how to set it up on all the new devices. It could be the same thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm gonna do some research on that after this.
Yeah, I was
you
like,
mentioned
yeah, I know
library, too.
things, but just not enough.
But yeah, so
Say it with
that's.
enough confidence.
I won't fact check you.
No, I
Uh,
do know it actually.
But okay, well then I believe you wholeheartedly. But that's like the backstory into why I wanted to do something with like this microphone that's in front of my face. So obviously listening to Who's Right, ever since the voicemails, and I went back to the backlog and listened all the way to the beginning, or not the beginning, but to where they're at today. And then along comes Cardiff Electric, and he starts
Cardiff.
doing the recap shows for that. And yeah, how do you feel about Cardiff, everyone?
I hate
How
him.
do I feel about him? I've never interacted with him.
I'm just kidding. I don't hate him.
How do you feel
I've
about
never-
the concept of Cardiff?
The concept.
I like the concept of Cardiff.
I
watched a couple
like
of his episodes.
I liked his like the only part things I haven't seen his show. I only know him from the Who's Left stuff.
Yes.
Which I thought was about funny 40% of the time, 60% of the time, same joke over and over again.
And I loved it. I loved Who's Left.
I like his commentary. I've told Tom this. I'm just like, I like Cardiff as a guy, but man, his fucking intros dragged on, and sometimes I did not want to listen to that when he was doing the intros on Who's Right. I'm like, man, this shit's taking forever. So, if you guys watched about a few years ago or so, there's a couple of intros done by a guy. He has a nice voice and stuff. He just talks really slow, and I don't know if that's for the dramatic effect. I don't know if that's just because
Yes, that's what it's for. The
I think it's for
dramatic
the shtick.
effect.
It's-
I
When
think
you
it's
hear
the
him-
shtick.
it's just
Which is
too
funny, but I
fucking
often-
slow. It's like funny the first 2 times. After that, I don't want to wait.
I loved it. Like every time I would tune in and I would hear, "Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Who's Left."
Like, why does he have to say it that slow every
Weekly
time?
Of last week's
Who's Right?
Who's Right
Why?
podcast. But every time I would hear that, I'd be like, "Let's go! It's another Who's Left." And then I did exactly what Kevin tried to do to me, which was usurp Cardiff's throne. So there was one episode where I think there was like 2 weeks in a row, and I might be exact. It might have just been 1 week, and Cardiff wasn't doing the recaps, and I'm like, I could just sneak right in there. So I took my idea for Who Was Right. I messaged Doug. I emailed him, and I said, "Hey, I want to do a recap show, kind of in the style of like a news broadcast." So that's why it's Who's Right Tonight always kind of sounds like a news broadcast, but it's kind of loosey goosey. I told you guys earlier in a group chat I felt like it was losing its identity for a bit, but it's a news broadcast, and Doug's like, I love the idea. So my initial goal was like, maybe I can do a recap show like how they used to do in the early days, like pre-2020. Who Was Right, where they had a show kind of going on alongside of it to kind of use as like a suppository is the wrong word, but I can't think of the right word. But
What?
there was somebody. Go ahead.
I said what? What word are you
Supplementary. Supplementary.
Aren't suppositories the ones that you shove up
Suppos-
your ass?
Pretty much, yeah. So
I'm
there was a
confused right now.
supplementary podcast that went alongside Who's Right, and that somebody was doing it as a joke. But I told Doug I want to do it something like that, like a 5-minute recap show. Maybe you could just put it on the Patreon if you like it. And he goes, let's go ahead and do a full-on recap show, and we'll do it. So the first episode was like 2.5 minutes, and I hated it. And they bullied me enough to get it down to the format, which is on Who's Right today. Kevin, what's that face?
Oh, you were
Oh,
done speaking? Sorry. Sorry. That was a weird pause.
Oh no, Kevin looked like he just saw somebody get mauled.
No, I was confused. This has nothing to do with what you were saying, Tom, but I was confused by Evan's definition of suppository because I thought it only had to do with the vagina. And I looked it up, and what I read any orifice, and it said that there are urethral suppositories, and it horrified me to learn that.
I don't know what that word means, so I'm just gonna. Yeah, keep going, fellas. Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, I want to do a supplementary show, just like a wrap-up show. That's all I wanted to do.
A suppository show.
Yes, a suppository show. And I reached out to Cardiff, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Because to me, Cardiff is king. There would be no Who Is Right Tonight without Who Is Left, without Cardiff. So I put all the respect to Cardiff. I always tell him, even today, if he wants to come back and do Who's Left, you're welcome to take the king.
No, don't take that offer. Don't take it, Cardiff. Don't do it.
I think he's done with Who's Left, unless I guilt him back into doing it, like he said in the previous week's episode. But I love Cardiff. I really do. He whatever humor he has is right up my alley. So that's what kind of inspired Who Is Right Tonight. Again, the story of Tom is the story of a fan who just threw something at his favorite show that he listens to, and the host said, "Let's run it and keep doing it until we say stop."
That's awesome. I like that story. It's a good
It's a good story.
tale. I don't know.
It's a good suppository.
It's good though, because I like seeing people like being able to succeed at what they want to do, whereas like when I do things, I'm like, I'm gonna try this, and then it like doesn't work half the time. So it's good. I like to see it sticking around, because Tom has been my favorite intro person. There's not really many more intros they've done with other people, but Tom has been my favorite. He's very charismatic. I know words. And he brings a good, refreshing feeling to the show before Doug and Anthony start speaking.
Thank you.
So it's pretty good. It's pretty awesome. And also he does the Bible podcast recaps, which is also very good, because if you forgot what happened in the last episode, or you missed it, or you just want to listen to one, and he'll tell you what happened before, so you know what's going on. And he does those very well too. Those are funny. I like those a lot.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say real quick too, I'm incredibly thankful for my position, no matter how silly it is. You know, my 1 minute on the show per Bible episode, or Who Is Right Tonight recaps. I'm thankful for it. Again, I'm a grown man afraid of the internet, so I get to interact with a bunch of really interesting people that are a part of the Who Is Right cinematic universe. So I reached out to you about our April Fool's Day thing, Mariah, for the Bible show. I reached out to you for that. I reached out to Kevin for a few ideas, or you reached out to me, Kevin, for a few ideas we could have done for the Bible show. We just haven't gotten to them yet. Nugget helped out with a few things. Crawfather, my sweet boy Crawfather, has helped out with something. It's just, if somebody wants to reach out and they come to me with an idea, I love it. And if it's a really good idea, I'll say, let's run with it, and I'll have you on Who Is Right Tonight. So that's not an open advertisement, but you got to come to me with an idea, and it has to be a
Everyone
good one.
message Tom right now.
Everyone do it. Okay, wait.
I'm already typing something into Tom's DMs right now.
Hey, I don't know. How long have you been typing that message to him? Oh, wait.
Evan, why does it say...
What?
Why did you just... The DM you sent me just says hate crimes? What's that about?
Wait, what?
That little,
talking about?
little joke there.
Oh no,
I
he
don't
must
see
have
any
been
DMs.
confused with Evan's message you
Hang
sent
on,
to
I
him.
need to figure out how to delete the message right now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you specified that it was a joke, because I have sent out several hate crimes.
Wait.
I didn't mean to send one to you.
Alright, I did not delete any DMs just now, just to be clear.
So we have 2 out of the 3's backstory. Let me guess Evan's backstory. I assume. Wait, I don't know if you said it already. Actually, wait, fuck. Did you say that before? I don't know if you said it yet.
I haven't said the origins yet.
Okay, let me guess. This is just gonna be the obvious, like the most basic route. You're like, hey, I like Who's Right. I started listening to them, and then you'll be like, hey, Doug and Anthony, here's my idea, and they said yes and rolled with it. Don't say yes or no. What does everyone else think? Well, if you know it, don't say the answer. But if you don't know it, what does everyone else think? You guys probably know more than me.
I'd like to think that Doug and Anthony know each and every one of their listeners by first name, and since they have everybody's phone number, I'd like to
Yeah.
think Evan put in the local phone booth phone number to his Patreon. So one day the phone booth rang, and it was Doug on the other end, and he said, "Evan, have I got the job of a lifetime for you?"
Kevin, any ideas, or do you know the answer?
I don't know the answer. I'm going to guess. I haven't thought this sentence through before saying it, so we're just gonna see how it comes out of my mouth. I'm gonna say
Hate
that
crimes.
Suppository.
hate crimes. I'm gonna say that Evan had never heard of the Who's Right podcast before. He had this idea burning within him, this story, this script that he had written. And it was like the story you read about, like when a publisher like sends out their manuscript to 100 different publishing companies to see who will publish them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Evan did that. He wrote this script, and he made 100 different versions of it, and just changed the names to the names of the people in the podcast, and sent it out to 100 different podcasts. And Doug was the one person who responded and said, "We'll take on this idea. This is our property now."
Hey, those are all good guesses. Now,
I
now
really
what's
like
the
these.
You should make a story out of all of them now. No. So,
I like these theories.
what's
But,
the real
yes.
scenario? Yeah, how'd you get going?
So pretty similar to Tom, official podcast, 2 Who's Right voicemails,
Damn
2
it.
full-time Who's Right listener.
I could have put that in there too. Fuck.
Yeah, and I was at work one day just listening to the show when they said, like, ham and pickle, did one of their ham and pickle bits. And I said to myself, ham and pickle, Hamilton and Piccolo. That sounds like a buddy cop duo. I'm gonna write that down. And
Yep.
that was as far as I ever thought into Hamilton and Piccolo as in the name. Just like turned ham and pickle into that, and that was the first thing I came up with. I just wrote it down. Several months later, I just had some free time, and I was like, all right, let me just like look through these different ideas I have in my phone. And one of them was Hamilton and Piccolo buddy cop duo. I'm like, all right, well, since the idea came from Who's Right, the idea for the name, I might as well make it a Who's Right parody show.
Okay, I see how
But,
this brain is working. A little look into his mind right now. I like that. I like it.
Yeah, like, they inspired the name of the show, so I, in turn, made the show a spin-off of theirs. And wrote the first script, and I put it out publicly on Twitter, and just tagged Doug and Anthony in it. And a little while later, I get a private message from Doug saying, hey, we really like this. We want to do something with this, if you're willing to continue writing it. And I was like, yeah, totally. I was going to write this whole series out that I have an idea for, regardless of if it was official or not. And he's like, yeah, like, keep doing that. Just don't put them out publicly anymore. Send them to us directly. And
There he goes, taking ownership
was-
already of your project.
I mean,
Sounds like Doug.
it's a spin-off of his. Like, I'm fine with it. And like I said, I was going to do it regardless if it was official or not. It was just a spare time project. So the fact that they even read it was already like really cool to me. I was like, whoa, like they actually
Aw.
read this thing,
That's awesome.
this piece of shit that I put out. And like at this point, I didn't have any writing experience. I minored in writing in college, but this was before that. Like very little writing experience, just whatever I made in my free time. So scripts weren't very good, I don't believe, and maybe possibly Kevin can attest to that. He read the raw scripts. Yeah, did that. They picked it up, wrote all of season 1. I really just wrote the episodes as I was going. I didn't know where each episode was going to leave off. I had no structure planned. I just sat down, wrote the episode, and wherever it ended, that's where it ended.
That's
I
kind of
had
cool.
no
because
ideas.
you wouldn't have to, like, if anyone's like, oh, I gotta know what happens next, you won't have any slip-ups because you just don't know what happens next.
Yeah. As the episodes were coming out, like I would write them, and Doug and Anthony would start producing them. There was a point where Doug and Anthony were talking about the recent episode that came out, and Doug said, "I think it's painfully obvious who the killer is."
Uh-oh.
And I was like,
I remember that.
I don't even know who the killer is. Like, I didn't even know. But Doug said it was painfully obvious.
You ask him behind the scenes, wait, who do you think it is? I just want to see if you're right. That is funny as fuck.
Wait, now, I have to ask because this has been in my mind because we've had 2 unfinished seasons of Hamilton and Piccolo.
Yes.
Who was the bad guy? Did we even get to meet the bad guy in season 3?
Spoilers,
I
I think. I haven't even... I've like...
Do you even know the
I
answer?
haven't listened in so
do.
long.
Season 2 and... Season 2 was fully written all the way through. They just didn't... Like, Doug didn't have the time to produce them, and it does seem like it would be
I
kind of a
call
hassle
bullshit.
to wrangle everyone
Well, you
to
know,
their
I call
I agree.
bullshit.
voice actors.
If this is going to be the sequel to your book that you wrote, seasons 2 and 3 are going to be your sequels, you know what? Keep it a secret.
Yeah, so I'm not going to like say that because that is exactly my plan.
Okay.
Because I think season 2, I never intended on season 2. I thought Hamilton Piccolo, the first season, was just that was going to be it, just a one-off side series. And once it was done, that's it. And then I'd probably never do anything else for Who's Right again. Was my thought process at the time. But then they were like, hey, we want to do season 2. I was like, cool. Wrote all of season 2, and then they stopped like halfway through. And I went, you know what? They still came back. They wanted season 3 before season 2 even finished.
Those fuckers
In
can read
classic
the
Who's Right
Bible.
fashion.
Fucking
Those,
right.
They can read the Bible, but they can't sit down and record something that's already written for them.
Well,
I
Mariah,
think
it's
that's
because
the
they're
most
making
Who's Right move they could have possibly done.
it's because they're making money off the Bible. Damn it!
But it doesn't make sense to me. If it's there,
Actually-
you just read off the thing. And if there are other people doing other parts, recast. You know, if they can't show up, recast them. Fuck it. If they don't want to do it, fuck them. It's
It-
like,
it can get really
oops,
annoying
I
to
accidentally
recast.
changed into an alien.
Honestly, I don't blame Doug or anyone for it. I'm cool with it. Actually, I am curious though, Kevin. Did they ever send you any of the scripts for unaired
They-
episodes?
They sent me all the scripts as they came in, and as soon as I'd get the scripts, I would immediately, like within a day, do my recording of my part for the scripts. But to be perfectly honest, I would never actually, I don't think I ever once went back to the Patreon to listen to the finished product. So I'd get the script, record them, and that was the end of my involvement with the show. I wouldn't even listen to the final episodes. I have no idea what was aired or what wasn't. I only know the scripts I was sent. Some of them maybe weren't aired. I don't know.
That's fair. Well, do you remember any sort of conclusion to season 2?
I forgot there even was a season 2.
All right, well, that answers
It was
that.
This was years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, this was a while ago, but they never finished airing season 2. But I said, you know what? I'm going to take that and make that the driving point for season 3. So the whole
Good.
point of season 3 is that they never finished the investigation. They just
Yep.
stopped investigating,
Nice.
and then that led to like a protests against the police department, and then they have to go take a paid vacation while they wait for this
they defund
situation
the
to die down.
police and
Yeah, in a completely new setting, a completely new town. And I think season 3, because season 3 I didn't finish writing it because they stopped doing that one too. So at that point I was
Oh
like, all
my
right,
God.
I'm gonna like go slowly
These
and see what airs, and then
motherfuckers.
if they stop airing, then I won't put the effort into writing it.
wow.
But I thought that season 3 was some of my best writing. I'm a little sad that it never got to finish. But that's where the book comes in, because I was like, I want to write season 3. Like, I want to finish it, and I think it could be fun to do it in book form.
Evan wants closure for his own work. Damn it.
Yeah.
He
Like,
doesn't
it
know what
won't
it is
really
yet,
make
but he
sense.
wants it.
Like, it won't make sense to start the book at season 3 with no, like, prior context in the same media format.
I really
So-
hope. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And we good?
I was just gonna say I hope that the second book just drops Like, okay, and they stopped investigating. The end.
I do have an ending planned for season 2 that will still lead to the same start of season 3. Like, if anyone's concerned, like, oh, I don't want to read a book that doesn't have an ending, like, it does have an ending. See, the second book, if we ever write it, will have an ending, but it will still lead to the same start to season 3. Anyways, like, I wanted to write season 3 as a book, but I didn't want to start with season 3, so, like, you know what, let me go back, rewrite season 1, because it is, like, as much as people love it, I know it gets a lot of positive reception, I can't go back and listen to it, because I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had, like, there's different tenses. It'll go from past tense to present tense, like, randomly.
Evan, don't do it. Don't make me call you a nerd too.
You can do it.
No, that you have to be consistent with that. Because why would you say, like, I am, and you said I did? No, it doesn't make sense. But it's, I don't know. From what I've seen so far, everything looks very good. Okay, I want to just, can we take a break real quick? I gotta fucking pee. But
I do too. I'm so glad you still for it.
Okay, let's take a pee
I'm
break.
fine with that.
Okay, yeah, let's all pee real quick.
Alright, let me mark in my notes where I left off, and then we'll pick back up.
I just want to give a shout out to my first fourth wall patron, Christians. Giving you a shout out because that's part of the tier. If you guys want to support me, I have something, it's kind of like a Patreon, but it's called Fourth Wall. You just go to the Mariety Show -shop.fourthwall.com. So that's the Mariety Show -shop.fourthwall.com. Thanks so much, guys, for listening, and we'll see you for part 2 on the 15th.
You're listening to
The Mariety Show.
The Mariety Show.
The Mariety Show.